Welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast, where today's thought leaders discuss how they're using the latest social media strategies and technologies in marketing, sales, customer service, and HR. Get ready to be inspired as our guests contribute to your digital transformation through their stories, knowledge, and insights into what works in today's digitally connected world. And now, here's Bernie Borges, your host of the Social Business Engine podcast.
Hey there, welcome to episode 125. I'm Bernie Borges, your host of the Social Business Engine podcast. Hey, thanks for listening. I am super excited about this episode because I'm doing something a little bit different. On this episode, I have not one, but 4 guests who are going to join me in a conversation newsroom style. I'm going to moderate a discussion with 4 people that are responsible for running small businesses to discuss how they use social media to market and grow their business. First, this episode is brought to you by our very own training division. If your salespeople aren't using social media effectively to drum up new business, sign up for a free trial of our totally online course, Optimize Your Social Profile for Sales Success. Just visit our website at socialbusinessengine.com to start your free trial. And I want to mention that there's no credit card required and no one's going to call you. All right, well, let's get to our panel. So what we're going to do this is we're going to go around the horn. And so first, I'd like to introduce Nicole or Nikki Colella. So Nikki, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Nicole Colella, and I am the owner of Nicolella Photography, which is a North Jersey-based photography studio that primarily focuses on the self-esteem of women and young children, kind of like between 10 to 12 and up. And through our photography, we help them with build their self-esteem.
Fantastic. All right, Jim Catalano, you're up.
Hi, this is Jim Catalano. I'm the marketing director for Catalano Cabor & Company, and the Music CPA. We're a full-service accounting firm that provides tax, audit, and accounting services for businesses and individuals nationwide.
All right, fantastic. Alex Gonzalez.
Hi, Alex Gonzalez. I'm the Director of Sales Marketing at the Best Western Plus Rockville Hotel and Suites. We're a leisure and business class hotel that's located in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. Come and visit us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex. And a repeat guest, Alan Belniak.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Bernie. Thanks. It's great to have me back. I work at Alignable, where I'm the head of community and content marketing. And Alignable is the social network for local businesses, providing a platform for these local businesses to connect, network, and refer.
Fantastic. Thank you all for that introduction. And as I mentioned in my introduction, I'm really excited about the conversation that we're going to have because you all work in a small business environment. And as we heard from your introduction, you're all in very different businesses. So why don't we begin our conversation with, let's talk a little bit about what are some of the challenges that you all face in both attracting and retaining customers to your business. So Nikki, why don't we begin with you?
Okay. One of the issues I have is that old school marketing really doesn't work. It's a constant changing animal. So social media changes and it's more like branding now rather than actually pulling customers in. So it's something that I have to work on a lot more referral basis rather than print media or, things like that.
Okay. And when you say referral, you mean word of mouth online or word of mouth the old-fashioned way?
It's almost word of mouth the old-fashioned way because the type of work I do is very relationship-based. So it's time-consuming because it's going to networking events. It's meeting people face-to-face. Mm-hmm. It's doing stuff like that, and it's building my branding, but the branding really just happens online. It's not, print media does not work for me because they don't really understand the relationship. And it's more of a relationship kind of business.
Okay. All right. And Jim, you work in a CPA firm, if I'm not mistaken. And so your customers are other businesses. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And
what are some
individuals? Sorry.
And individuals as well. So yeah. So what are some of your challenges in attracting and retaining customers?
The biggest thing I found recently is that you have to do both the social media and the physical networking. So the networking events and groups and stuff like that from places such as meetup.com and whatnot. That from what I've seen, and it does vary with ages, but from what I see is everybody, or a majority of the people under 40, it's hit them at the computer. They're on their smartphones. They're online, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Google Plus, all that stuff. The above 40, and don't get me wrong, there are some above 40 that fall under it, but a majority of the above 40 really appreciate the face-to-face, the let's get a cup of coffee, let's go to lunch, the networking group, shaking hands, physical thing.
Okay. And Alex, how about yourself? Running essentially a hotel venue in a local geographic region. What are some of your challenges in attracting and retaining customers?
Well, by and large, due to the nuances of social media, it's basically conversion. We get a lot of visitors. They click through, and then, as they would call it in shopping cart nomenclature, they abandon the shopping cart, which is the reservation portion of the visit. And whether the links come from the various and sundry social media mini sites all the way up to big landing pages on blogs and things of that nature, it's conversion. It's keeping them there, keeping them focused, and then on the deal, and then clicking through to make the reservation. So with understanding the millennials out there, it becomes ever so more important to be keen on the various social media platforms and make the best of them to spread the word, especially hyper-local ones like Alignable, where you get to meet people that don't necessarily know your product or the brand for that matter, and you can correspond with them. Okay.
Well, that's a good segue, Alex, to Alignable. So, Alan, at Alignable, you're the only one in this panel whose business is completely online. But, of course, the nature of your business is beyond that. So, without stealing too much of your thunder and getting it all wrong anyway, what are some of your challenges in attracting and retaining customers at Alignable?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, we are the social network for local and small businesses, like we've got on this great panel. And the issue that we're having with is, and I heard it mentioned earlier, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Our challenge is trying to convince local business owners that we're not just another social network. Because on Alignable, it isn't about having 100,000 connections. It isn't about having 50 million friends across the entire United States. It's local business. You've got the majority of your customers. Maybe Alex is a bit different because he works at a hotel. Are within 5, maybe 10 miles of you, right? So it doesn't make sense to make 100,000 connections. It makes sense to make maybe 20 connections, but real solid ones that you can network and refer business to. And it's getting that word out to convince people that we're not just another social network. We're the right social network for local business.
Okay. Thank you. So what I'd like to talk about now is how each of you are actually using social media in your strategy. So if you could just think about, where you're using social media, what are some of the strategies and tactics, how long have you been doing it, what are some of the success factors, maybe if you have a story you want to tell, and it doesn't have to be a great success story. It could be maybe a mistake you made that you're willing to share, like, oh, wow, we learned this lesson here, and then as a result of that, now we're doing it differently. So anything that you can share in terms of how you're using social media. And I think this time what we'll do is kind of go round the robin backwards, if there is such a thing. Alan, starting with you.
Sure. So we know that our members are spread across different platforms. LinkedIn is where, just according to our general overall member base, that's probably where they spend the least amount of time. They spend the most amount of time on Facebook and Twitter. So we're trying to do more things there. So, for example, we're trying to use search for hashtags use hashtags that are commonly used, small biz, local biz, things like that. Try to follow people, create lists, and interact with people that way. Because again, we're in the kind of the awareness generation phase, letting people know that this is something for us, that we're something for them, I should say. The other quick thing I want to share is we just recently tested out a tactic with Facebook Live Video. So I'm not sure how many people here have tried that, but just as a test, I shot a little video outside of our office window and just said, hey, this is just a test. I even labeled it, this is just a test.
Right.
It was 15, 20 seconds long. And I think it got like 300 something views and during and a couple hundred after the fact. I'm like, Facebook Live Video, Facebook does elevate it in terms of priority in the feed, live video versus regular video versus pictures and text only. So something to check out and something that we'll be exploring more.
Yeah, I agree. All right, cool. Alex, how about yourself? What are you doing in the area of social media?
Much like Alan, we have noticed due to analysis from the actual brand people up at headquarters office with Best Western and the reports we read in and around the business community on analytics. Video is the route to go. People look at video, people respond to video. So we're on that track to incorporate video more into our website and our postings.
So is that, can I just ask on that, Alex, is that produced video that you put on your website as opposed to live video, what Alan just described on Facebook Live?
Well, we'll be using one produced video, which is a professional and polished presentation about the hotel. It seems that statistically, people respond more to the natural, vines and things of that nature, where it's home brewed videos. And there was one company who proposed that they can do these home looking type videos, but we said no, we could probably do those ourselves. So we'll try that out.
Okay, so if I heard you correctly, professionally produced video, but then you're also planning to do some more sort of natural, organic video. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, exactly. Interaction with guests. So, for instance, in the breakfast room, people having their breakfast or making their waffles and, rubbing their bellies and things of that nature.
Right.
We're having fun. It's true. It's real. It's real time. And whether it's recorded and put up or played in real time at some point, because I'd like to toy around with that. We'll see as we move forward. Okay, cool. All right. Jim, how about yourself? Social media.
The Tumblr, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, I think we use a lot of those to be informative, posting informational articles for that people would find useful, whether accounting or finance related, which is kind of a challenge in itself to make that stuff interesting. But Alignable and LinkedIn, I tend to use those for connecting and creating synergies that can, work both ways between companies and individuals and ourselves, as well as I do use the chambers and Alignable as well have a hot deal opportunity that we can present, on a monthly basis, and I think that's pretty useful to be able to get. Attract some new customers that way.
Okay, cool. Nikki, your business kind of lends itself to being very visual. I mean, you're in the visual business. So how are you using social media?
Yeah, I'm the 40 and above that acts like they're 15 on social media. So a lot of what I deal with is visual platforms. So I blog on my website and I share that to Facebook and Twitter. My business page is there. My Twitter page is it's just my personal and my business at the same time. Facebook is split between business and personal. I share on Facebook amongst different groups. So you can join groups and you can target who you want to share between. And I spread my posts that way as well. I'm mostly on Instagram. I have a business and a personal account. So, and the business account kind of melds in a little bit to show a little bit of who I am and my personality, as well as my work. And Snapchat, I'm on that. And what's really great about that is it actually amplifies the behind the scenes and what goes on as I work every day, or what goes on during a shoot and what goes into it. So it gives people another kind of aspect. And I also put behind the scenes stuff on Instagram. Twitter is just basically, I go on there, I converse with people in the industry that I would not have access to on a regular basis. It's very surprising how much professional, big-time entrepreneurs will answer you if you call or you tweet and try to speak with them. And it's something really good. Yeah. So that's how I do that. And I use Instagram to follow through on posts on Facebook, on Twitter, on Tumblr, and on Swarm, which is you check in on there. It's another Foursquare derivative.
Right. So it sounds like you're really touching a lot of the major social platforms. You mentioned Snapchat, Nikki. I'd like to ask the rest of the panelists here this afternoon, is anybody else using Snapchat?
This is, I was waiting to see if anyone was going to speak. This is Alan. So I use it on my personal for fun. Largely because I like to test out social networks to see how they can apply to my workplace. We don't use it yet at Alignable. However, we're actually going to be, I'm authoring a post that's going to be going live in a little bit, depending on when you listen to this. But one of the incredible things about Snapchat is these things called filters. And for those of you who don't know, it's like you can apply different colorings and shadings and whatnot. But there's also what's called a geo filter, which means that when you're within a certain geographic proximity, a geofence, that filter starts to show up. If you're a hyper-local business, this should be incredibly interesting to you to understand. So I'm geeking out over this. I find it really interesting.
Well, the other thing too is they just released, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting. The other thing that they just released was that you can actually save your memories. Like you could save the Snapchats that you want to save in a memory file, and you can piece those images together and create like a mini video to post. So it's becoming more of a storyline kind of platform, which is really phenomenal because businesses can actually showcase what they do and attract people. And it's actually aging up because, it was usually between 15 and under, and now it's gone up to that 25 to 30 level, and it's going to keep growing and aging up.
Yeah. Now, you're all in such different businesses, industries, and serving different customers and customer demographics. So it's interesting that we got on this little bit of a conversation on Snapchat, and I think it's interesting, and I share sort of that geek factor, Alan, on how it's interesting. But I also think that it's not necessarily something that every business can use. So that we kind of get back on course, and I derailed us, so apologies for that. And I wouldn't say derail because it's an interesting element, especially, Nikki, in your business, being in the photography business. But if you're an accountant or you're a hotel, maybe not. So what I'd like to hear maybe a couple of examples of things that you all are doing. You've already mentioned a few of them. If you want to go back and maybe elaborate a little bit on something that each of you has done over the last year or so that you either got some results from or you're excited about the potential that it has if you do it again. So let's see, we'll start with Alex. Anything you want to share there, Alex?
Yeah, what I've been doing is promoting our restaurant establishment for breakfasts and lunch gatherings, because we do not serve lunch, and dinner happy hour events, which is creating the buzz around in the area. So that's been really successful on Alignable, much to my surprise. So I'll be able to spend more time on there. And it brings a whole new level of awareness to the local crew out there that sometimes they just know that we're the building on the hill versus a hotel.
Interesting. The building on the hill. All right, cool. And you said you're promoting that on Alignable.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right, cool. Jim, how about yourself?
I would say the biggest thing is still is creating synergies. Similar to what Nikki was saying, is that we're a referral-based business as well, and the biggest thing is connecting, finding places to connect with those that synergize with us, that we can refer back and forth. And So it's connecting through, whether it's Alignable, whether it's LinkedIn. Those two are very big areas to be able to search out businesses that will, couple in particular are bankers and attorneys. I call it the holy trinity, is the bankers, attorneys, and accountants.
Right.
We work very well together. Financial planners get thrown into the mix as well, to make it the holy cube. But it helps. It's mainly people that know finances for people and can help synergize together. They know which spokes of the wheel aren't working right.
And are you're doing that exclusively online, or are you also mixing some offline in as well?
Well, as I said, I do networking events and groups. I do go to at least one of those a week, and it's just the physical presence is out there, not only just to meet people, but it kind of, hey, I heard of your company. Hey, I saw your logo. You look familiar, or bumping into people that, hey, I'm a client of yours, or I'm a neighbor of one of the partners. It's really fun stuff.
Right. Cool. All right, Nikki, how about yourself? You've already mentioned a few things. Is there anything in particular, a story or anything you want to share in terms of how you've been using social media?
There's actually 3. I upped joining chambers. I joined the regional chamber, and I'm now part of my hometown chamber and another chamber that is in the region. So that's a lot of face-to-face networking, getting business through there. I started Alignable, I believe, the beginning of the year. And what I did was, again, that face-to-face connection is very important. And I have met at least twice a week since the beginning of the year with somebody that I have connected with on Alignable to see how we can help each other in businesses, how to promote each other. And I've gotten quite a few gigs from that already. I photographed a preschool, and I actually did some headshots too. And Snapchat was another thing that I started the beginning of this year. And that really I can teach on that, teach techniques, which would even be good for accountants and stuff like that. You could talk about tax law or the new changes coming in. My husband's a CPA. But that's stuff that I do as well. I do the behind the scenes, and I've been connecting with my clients in that manner too. And we all see each other on a different level.
Okay, excellent. Well, what I'd like to do now, panelists, is a very brief summary of kind of the highlights of the things that I heard from each of you, so that I can give my listener, and of course, oftentimes a podcast listener is mobile. So this is kind of the quick summary of this conversation. And then I'll ask you if there's anything you'd like to elaborate on. We're going to be really in the wind down of the podcast. So if you have anything to add, if you would just keep it brief. So let's go ahead and get started with my summary. Basically, what I heard from each of you in terms of attracting and retaining customers is that there's a combination of offline and online marketing. So through social media, a lot of it is referral based. It's creating content. It's doing meetups. And it's also focusing on the conversion from a digital connection to some kind of an action that's good for the business, a lead of some sort. And really just convincing people that that they should engage with you. And in some cases, some of you talk about building awareness. What I heard in terms of how you're using social media and the social platforms, it kind of runs sort of almost the gamut: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Tumblr, Snapchat, and of course, Alignable. All of you touched on how you're using Alignable to network. And also, Nikki, you said, to kind of single out, something you just said that I thought was really cool, was how you network with other business owners to see how you can help each other. And that's turned into business for you as well. And that's really awesome. And several of you said how you do events. Either you create events or you attend events. And of course, that's online and offline marketing. So I promised to keep it brief. So I'm going to end it right there and just ask briefly, is there anything that you'd like to add to that summary? Any of you?
This is Alan. Just one thing I just want to add is, Bernie, one of our friends, Jay Bear, likes to say is, if content is fire, then social media is gasoline, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to have good content to share when you're on social. And so one thing I love about working at Alignable is just we have so many great conversations that happen on the platform. So I dig through these conversations all the time, and I love to share that stuff out through social. So that's another way of kind of marrying two other forms of digital media together.
Terrific. Totally
this is Jim. The only thing I'd like to add too is just take a look at your smartphone, pull out your smartphone and look up your business in different aspects, and that's kind of put yourself in your potential customer's shoes. How are you looking, and tweak what you need to tweak.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So what I'd like to actually end with before I segue to my closing outro is I'd like each of you to one more time just say your name, your business, and either your Twitter handle or your website or both. Feel free to list both. And then my listeners know that we will link that up in our show notes page. So anybody that's mobile right now, they will just visit the show notes page to be able to find and connect with you. So Nikki, why don't we start with you?
Okay. My name is Nikki or Nicole Colella, owner of Nicolella Photography. My website is www.nicolellaphotography.com. So that's NICOLELLA photography.com. And you can access everything from that.
Terrific. Jim, how about you?
Social media.
Jim Catalano here, for Catalanical Boring Company and the Music CPA. Our websites are www.catboor.com and www.themusiccpa.com. We are also on Twitter at CatboardCPA, and then the Music CPA on Twitter is at the Music CPA.
All right, terrific. Alex, how about yourself?
Alex Gonzalez. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing at the Best Western Plus Rockville Hotel and Suites. Our website address is bestwesternrockville.com. All our social media links are there, and there's probably about half a dozen of them. And my social Twitter is Alex Gonzalez US. I look forward to catching up with people.
Awesome. Alan.
Yes, Alan Belniak, Head of Content and Community over at Alignable, ALIGNABLE. You can find us online at www.alignable.com. Check it out. It's free to join, and on Twitter at Alignable as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Nikki, Jim, Alex, and Alan, for joining me here for this special episode. I really have enjoyed this conversation, and I know that my listeners have as well. All right. Well, I hope that you enjoyed the special episode with my panelists discussing social media marketing challenges in small business and the success stories that we heard today. I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by our very own training division. If your salespeople aren't using social media effectively to drum up new business, it could be that they wrote their LinkedIn profile as a resume rather than a sales asset. And that's illogical because you don't want your prospects hiring from you. You want them buying from you. So sign up for a free trial of our totally online course, Optimize Your Social Profile for Sales Success. Just visit our website at socialbusinessengine.com to start your free trial. And there's no credit card required and no one's going to call you. Well, that is going to do it for episode 125. I want to thank my panelists once again, Nikki Colella, Alan Belniak, Alex Gonzalez, and Jim Catalano. This is Bernie Borges wishing you continued success on your social business journey.
Thank you for listening to the Social Business Engine podcast. Be sure to tune in again next week to reconnect with Bernie Borges for more insights, inspiration, and practical advice on social business. Visit socialbusinessengine.com to catch even more content on social strategy that will rock your business and your career.